Okay, welcome back to another episode of Banking Without Borders. Today we're going to talk about the Expat Bank Account by HSBC. It's based in Jersey in the Channel Islands, and it could potentially be someone's global hub for their finance. You've got multi-currency account products. You've got savings with arguably they're not that competitive, but they've got savings rates. You've got foreign exchange, international payments. You can even have your mortgage and your investments tied up with this HSBC Expat account. So it can all be your own financial offshore international ecosystem. But it is HSBC, Jan, which arguably raises some red flags. So, buddy, I'm excited to talk about this one, but I do think there are some drawbacks here that might take the shine off what looks to be a rather fancy, all-encompassing bank account.
Yeah, it's absolutely correct, Johnny. And as you just mentioned, this account is certainly not for everyone. And you can see that with the criteria that you need to fulfill if you want to open one. So if you decide you'd like to go ahead and open an expat account of HSBC, you gotta commit to save or invest at least £75,000 within that HSBC Expat account within 3 months of opening it, or have an annual salary of at least £120,000 that is being paid into the account. Or if you're already a customer of HSBC Premier in another country or region, you can also go ahead and open up this account. If you don't fund or maintain the required balance, then there's a underfunding fee of £50 per month that's being charged to your account, and you also risk that the account will be closed eventually. So,
quick question on that amount of money that you have to pay in to qualify. It's in sterling. Do they give it in different currencies, or do you have to have pound sterling deposited into this account to qualify?
It can either be in euro, US dollar, or pound sterling. So those are the three currencies that you can hold within that HSBC Expat account. You can hold a lot more if you decide to save or invest it into one of the savings products that are being offered by HSBC. But if you just want to have it as an account balance, then it's either euro, US dollar, or British pounds.
Arguably, red flag number one is the deposit insurance on this account, because it is located in Jersey. You don't qualify for like FSCS protection, which in the UK is £120,000 deposit insurance. It's a lot less. It's £50,000 in Jersey. You're immediately not covered by up to 25 grand if you go ahead and deposit 75k into this account. I cannot predict the future, but I would say 99% certainty HSBC will be fine and is a secure and safe place to deposit money. But that is definitely something to factor in, right, Jan?
It is, absolutely. So if you're looking for having the maximum amount of security through this deposit insurance, then this might not be for you. Also, where even are the Jersey Islands? I mean, I had to look it up on the map when researching this account, and I thought, okay, they might be part of the UK actually, but it turns out they're not, Johnny.
It's a self-governing dependency of the United Kingdom with a mixture of British and French culture. So it's technically part of the UK, but it's self-governing.
So a place you once colonized and then forgot about.
But look, it's a very small place, 45, I think, square miles. It's tiny, very beautiful place. Not that matters in the context of the HSBC Expat account, but there are some benefits to having, your money in an offshore bank account. Neither Jan and I can talk to like tax advice, but you could potentially, right, Jan, get some tax benefits from having this account as it's located in Jersey.
Yeah, that's a good question. Not necessarily if you're living within the UK. So I think this account is for people that have moved to countries where the banking infrastructure is not as solid as it is in the UK. And what you can't do is just open up that account, receive your salary from a British company in there, and then, live in the United Kingdom and just pay no tax on it. No, you'd go to jail if you do that. There will be probably hefty prison sentence waiting for you. So this is literally for people that are living, I think there's a list of countries. Malaysia is one of them, and then many others in Asia, but also a few in Latin America, if I'm correct. So if you're living there, you might not have access to competitive banking products, and especially not stable ones, right? That's who this is for sure. No, it's not tax savings at all, in my opinion.
Should we get into the core financial banking benefits of this, Jan?
Let's do that.
I think it's tied to HSBC Premier, but there are a number of different benefits. We've already touched on the 3 multi-currency accounts that are available. So you're getting account details in GBP, EUR, and USD, but you can also have savings and money deposited in up to 19 different currencies. And some of these savings rates are relatively competitive. They do offer boosted rates, so these top rates might not necessarily last forever. And of course, as well, interest rates at central banks can change, so they're always shifting around. But right now, you're looking at up to 4%. I believe that's on pound sterling. Jan, can you correct me if I'm wrong? And I think it drops all the way down to 2%.
And also depends on which term you decide to deposit your money for.
Okay.
So longer terms might have less interest rate than shorter terms.
It is interesting to see this opportunity because a lot of these legacy banks, they don't really offer very competitive savings rates. I think you would be hard pressed to find HSBC's sort of regular routine accounts that are located here in the UK offering up to 4%. So what do you think they're doing here? They're trying to entice obviously savers. They're trying to draw people in.
Probably the thought behind that is if you have already so much money with HSBC, you're more enticed to use some of their investment products as well. And that's where they earn a higher margin. And also it's in their interest to have customer deposits with them, right? Which they can then go ahead and loan out to other customers and make money on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not like, right, the British, the base rate, British pound base rate, that's around 4% right now, isn't it? I think that's exactly 4%, so it's not like they're making a loss here. Instead, they're just saying, okay, we give that base rate to our customers, right? Not making a margin on top of that. And then they make money in other ways. And I think that's logical and makes a lot of sense to me.
And it's a really simple place as well to deposit all of your different currencies. You know, a lot of people, I think, just prefer the convenience of that's available, and there's savings rates across multiple different currencies. So you can just do it all in one place. They do give you access to the HSBC Premier credit card. So that's tied to this account. That's free. That does come with some benefits. It's not mind-blowing by no means. It is a free credit card though. You get Lounge Pass or Priority Pass, which isn't free. It's £24 per visit. There are some discounts on hotels if you book through the credit card. Like I said, these are not very encouraging or compelling, but you also do get access to the HSBC Premier World Elite credit card, which does have its benefits like free or unlimited lounge access through Priority Pass. What surprised me, Jan, was how you go about getting the credit card.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Maybe before we dive into that, let's just add that you can also collect points with these cards whenever you make a purchase. With the Premier card, the free Premier card, you collect 1 point for every pound that you spend, or 2 points for every pound that you spend in a different currency. With the Premier World Elite card, it's points for every 1 pound that you spend, or 4 points for every 1 pound that you spend in a different currency. So that could be quite attractive. I tried to do some research. I could not find any conversion data. You know, if you decide, you can convert them to airline miles, but I think you have to have an account with them in order to see the exact exchange rate that you're getting there. Yeah, if you know about this, by the way, maybe you're already an existing customer of the HSBC Expat account, feel free to drop it into the comments, but I'd be curious what that conversion rate looks like.
Yeah, me too. It's quite typical of HSBC, isn't it, to almost hide things behind the fact that you have to sign. It's quite untransparent, if that's the correct term, Jan.
That's how it feels.
It's always quite difficult to get into the nitty gritty, like we'll talk about shortly about the exchange rates.
Okay, getting the account, Johnny. You just teasered it. That's a little difficult. So normally, from what I understand from their website, is that you can just go ahead and sign up online. However, somehow that doesn't seem to work, and you need to phone your HSBC Expat advisor and then do it on the phone.
Okay.
So that's you see that's a different level of banking, right? We're talking about a private banking product essentially, where you have a direct relationship with a person working at that bank, and you pay for that. Obviously, that's why it's not as attractive in terms of fees and conditions as other bank accounts. But it's also it's a fascinating way to apply for a credit card. I've never had to do that. Yeah. Have you?
No, me neither. I've noted this with a lot of legacy banks as of late, like getting through or to like an upgraded tier or upgraded system requires an actual phone call.
Oh, fascinating.
I mean, it's astonishing. But no, that's it. Yeah. Whether or not that's a drawback, I don't know. Look, if you're listening or watching this, let us know if you can via the comments. If you're watching on YouTube, like, is that a drawback? Do people honestly care that much? You just have to make a phone call. I'd be curious to know if you actually have to wait on the phone, to get through to someone, get through to your HSBC Expat account manager. I suppose all of this is meant to just create the illusion, at least, of quality. I have an HSBC Expat account manager and I've got to call them to verify the new credit card. It's like, come on, we don't need to do this, but I know what you're doing. You're trying to create the illusion of elitism. It's supposed to be like fancy and special.
Well, is that an illusion though, Johnny? If something goes wrong, you at least know who to call, right? And that's a big problem that we've criticized in the past with some of these fintech banks. So I'm glad that they provide a point of contact with a phone number that you can reach whenever you have a problem.
I agree. No, it's not necessarily an illusion. It's branding, it's marketing, it's to create a more compelling proposition. And yeah, no, that's justified. That's definitely justified. If we look into the nitty gritty, that might be a fancy additional thing, but then it gets let down on things like the exchange rates you get for international transfers, for example. Like, let's talk about that. Like, another part of the core banking features is being able to send money internationally. This is an international bank account, Jan. It doesn't lead on exchange, or at least it's hard for us to speak to this because I'm going off what I can see on my HSBC Global Money account. The exchange rates aren't that competitive on there. They're not the mid-market rate. They have a spread, they have a margin. And I'm going to assume that this expat account uses the same exchange rates.
Yeah, actually went through their pricing overview and they mentioned that they apply an FX markup. They call it the exchange rate adjustment. But how high that is, they wouldn't tell, right, without signing up. At least I couldn't find it anywhere. Maybe it's hidden and I just didn't look well, but I could not find it and I really spent some time trying to dig into the information, try to research that, but I couldn't. So it's a bit unfortunate.
It irritates me.
Yeah, it's irritating.
You could exchange money with Wise, get the mid-market rates, the rate that you can see on Google, and they'll apply a small fee. Now, I can't be certain. I'm speculating here, but I imagine any exchange you make on Wise will still be cheaper than anything you do via HSBC, given that they're openly admitting that there's a margin. Right, Jan? I just can't. I mean, we can't be sure because we can't do a direct comparison live, but I imagine that it's going to be more expensive than like Wise, for example, and maybe even Revolut.
Yeah, I'd be certain.
Maybe, though, the clientele, don't really mind too much, which is fascinating to me, really. If you're living internationally, this should be one of the things on the top of your mind when it comes to your personal banking. What exchange rates are you getting?
Yeah.
But there's a reason this account exists. People must be using it. People must be using it to send money internationally.
Yeah, fair enough. And also you have to consider, we're talking about Wise, we're talking about Revolut. Obviously, those are not available everywhere in the world. If you're living in a country like Malaysia, it's a bad example because I believe Wise is available in Malaysia. And I think Revolut either is available there or they just discussed expanding there at some point. But if you're living in an underbanked country, right, maybe that's the best exchange rate that you can get.
Yeah.
So it's you always have to compare that to the local alternatives. So maybe that's attractive for someone living in these countries.
I think something that I've come under fire for in the past as well has been criticizing, say, Revolut on their exchange rates not being the mid-market and being slightly inflated or worse. But ultimately, when you compare it to some of the areas in like Europe, for example, like they're still market leading. And I think Jan's right there. You've just got to look and compare. But the problem we have is the fact that I can't look until I have to open the account first. I have to commit £75,000. I have to make a financial commitment to see the exchange rates. That is sad.
That is very sad. Absolutely agree with that. We should also mention at this point that if you decide to use your credit card, the HSBC Premier credit card, either MasterCard or the World Elite MasterCard, to spend money in a foreign currency, also that FX markup applies.
What?
Yeah, it's not ideal, right? But if you have all your spendings in British pounds, or I guess euro, if you have euros deposited, or dollars, if you have dollars deposited, that shouldn't matter very much. But hey, you can go ahead, go to any ATM and withdraw money for free all over the world, right? If it's in a foreign currency, you have to be aware there might be a markup, but if it's in British pounds, it's free. That's how I understand it.
Okay.
At least it applies to HSBC ATMs, right? Which exist in several countries.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and and that is another benefit of this account. It's like, well, HSBC this isn't just their strapline. It really is a global bank account, isn't it, Jan? Mm-hmm. So there's potential for physical branches, not only in the UK, for where you might be located. Access to ATMs or their ATM partners will mean free ATM withdrawals at the local branch. There are definitely benefits.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're somewhat offset by the fact that they're charging on exchange rate fees. They're charging exchange rate fees. That's, keep saying it, but I'm a bit sad about that.
Yep, absolutely. I was in Hong Kong earlier this year, so this huge HSBC building, very, very fascinating. Also, very interesting bank with a huge history. Did you know that they're actually on the banknotes of Hong Kong? There's an HSBC, an HSBC logo on there.
I didn't know that. Funnily enough, my wife's brother works for HSBC in Hong Kong. He's a credit card nerd, loves credit cards. I've never met anyone else who loves them as much as that, actually.
Fascinating. Should have connected.
We have to get him. We'll try. I was going to say, we'll try and get him on the podcast at some point to talk about it. Where do we go from here? Jan, should we talk about in a bit more detail some of these savings and deposits and wealth opportunities that you get with this account? At this stage, if you're listening to this and you're still interested in the expat account, it can get, can't it, quite interesting in terms of the offerings. There's lots of things available that you can get into.
Yeah, as mentioned before, it's a way to access the HSBC banking ecosystem without necessarily living in the United Kingdom, and I think that's actually a really valid value proposition in my opinion. So you get access to lots of wealth management tools, investment products, and also these fixed-term deposits that we mentioned, also some easy access accounts in various currencies. So that can be really interesting. However, if you decide to deposit your money into one of their fixed-term deposit accounts or easy access accounts, it could be that if it's below £25,000 or below a different threshold, then there's no interest that's being applied. It's good for parking money, I assume, and then investing it through HSBC's investment product.
Yeah, with pretty diverse amount of products available. They've got portfolio investment funds, single asset class funds, International Investment Center. What is that? That is the International Investment Center, a fund supermarket style DIY mutual funds.
Lots of stuff.
What?
Lots of stuff, Johnny. And I assume you can also probably phone your advisor if you want to buy shares. I've done that actually once with my former German brokerage account. They had that service on offer and it was free actually. It was actually quite fascinating. Felt like Jordan Belfort. Literally asked him to buy, I think it was 10 Alliance shares back then, right? Worth back then 1,500 euros, but it was a great feeling. I was sitting in my office chair, feeling like a king in that moment. It was fascinating, but it's a cool experience.
Nice.
If you're having a brokerage account that allows for that, I can highly recommend doing that at least once.
For those that are looking to move abroad, purchase a home, it's a very select number of people, but they, like I said at the start, they do offer international mortgages for expats. I mean, fascinating. Again, another product available that might be quite hard to come by depending on how you're moving internationally and where you're going to. I also imagine, Jan, they're offering advice. They're offering to help people with the necessary paperwork. I'm not sure, but perhaps like helping you deal with foreign language paperwork as well, because I know a big part of this, at least from what I saw in the advertising, is just helping provide resources and information for moving internationally. So I imagine that's covered as well with the mortgages. It is a really, really interesting account. I have to ask the question though, Jan. At the moment, I think it's for a particular type of person, but I'm curious, who do you think this account is really for?
Yeah, I'd say wealthy expats who just want to have access to proper banking infrastructure, who want to benefit from private banking.
That's who I thought.
That's who this is for. Very clear. And I think if you compare it to other private banking products that are available internationally, it could still be pretty attractive. And these £75,000 in savings or investments, they're not that high, to be honest. I actually looked into opening an account with DBS in Singapore once. I think it was last year, the end of last year. And it turned out they wanted $1 million Singapore dollars in investments in order to even offer me their banking services. And obviously I did not feel keen on doing that. So it's if you always have to look at this in relation to who this is competing with. And I think in that sense it's an attractive option for a small amount of people, for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely not for a digital nomad or an early career expat on a lower wage, someone who can't consistently meet the thresholds necessary. They're likely to end up paying the underfunded fee.
Yeah. And also not for someone living in a developed country like Germany, for example, or anywhere in the European Union, outside the UK. maybe in North America. Not really, right? So I think this is particularly interesting for people living in underbanked countries or people that have still some ties to the UK and would like to benefit from these borrowing products, right? If you like to invest into a UK property, finding a bank that allows you to do that, right? Allows you to give you mortgages, even if you're not a resident there, that's rare.
This is definitely not a competitor for Revolut. And I know I've referenced Revolut slightly and Wise. It's just not, it's a lightweight, or it's almost lightweight comparatively to Revolut. And Revolut obviously don't provide you with that phone call, with that account manager on the end of a phone where you can pick them up and talk about investments, talk about mortgages. This is a lot more premium. I'm sure it's a product that we might, Jan, eventually see Revolut. We know they're floating the idea of a private bank. I mean, I imagine this is an area that they'll try to target and compete with HSBC. But right now, this does feel quite unique as a bank account goes. I'd be curious for those that are watching on YouTube to comment and let us know if there's something that you see out there in the market that is similar to this. Because I think this sits on its own to some degree. Although there is a small subset of people that would probably benefit from it, it is quite compelling for those people and quite an interesting proposition. So we'd love to hear from anyone out there that A, would utilize this account, and B, maybe knows of something similar that maybe they have experience with that we can talk about and look at. Because I was really, really quite pleased, Jan, to look into this account because I think it's really interesting.
Love to learn about what you guys think about this interesting product. If you think it's great, if you think it's nonsense, please let us know.
How do you feel about like the hidden demeanor of those exchange rates as well? Is that something you'd be comfortable with signing up with, not knowing what exchange rates to expect? Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you at the next episode.
Thank you.